Hello there, you awakened wonders. Thanks for joining me today for Stay Free with Russell Brand. It's a pretty exciting show that we've got ahead, as well as talking about Trump's financial nightmares and the ongoing lawfare between New York City and Donald Trump. We're going to be talking to Dr. Pierre Kory, who you might be familiar with from his numerous appearances before Senate hearings, talking about the handling of the pandemic and in particular the medical matters pertaining to it. He's a fantastic guest and it's a fantastic conversation. We're also talking about Article Pfizer, the new laws in France that prevent you from criticizing not France itself, but certain medical interventions, and I reckon you'll be able to guess what they are. For the first 15 minutes or so, we'll stay with you on YouTube. But as you know, ultimately, our home is that stream of freedom that we call Rumble, where we remain in order to report ultimately on subjects like the ongoing trials of Julian Assange. I'm glad you enjoyed our coverage from that hearing for the last couple of days. It's very nice to be back here. I want to say hello to you awakened wonders like Tolson718 and Jamie Jam and Beth in Wonderland and Land in Lizards and Kyle Rhino telling me to shut up and stop ruining the chat in Rumble because there's a vibe in there. Hello Trish McLeod, hello Joey Doe, hello Dog Odds and Trowel Runner, and all of you watching us on YouTube, you are welcome as well, but soon you will have to make the transition to remain with us. It's a brilliant show today. We're going to be talking a lot about censorship and how censorship is becoming more finely tuned even as it becomes more immersive and in some ways more monolithic. The ways of legitimizing censorship are becoming ever more extraordinary, and it's a sort of pertinent time to be talking about that. Firstly, let's just cover the fact that Letitia James, the Attorney General of New York, saying she's going to seize Donald Trump's assets. Do your own joke, including his buildings in New York, if he can't pay the $355 million civil fraud case fine. But this has generated a kind of spontaneous activism movement that, you know, when people say, oh, why is there not any interest in democracy? People don't say that so much anymore, do they? That used to be one of the tropes. People just are not interested in politics. Well, now people are interested in politics, and we're seeing the rise of blue-collar movements, and they are not behaving properly or appropriately or supporting their allocated parties, because this blue-collar movement is obviously pro-Trump, and that's an extraordinary phenomenon and worth examining. You're going to see a lot of legacy media focusing on the attempts to pecuniate Donald Trump, and that's, that's what the merits of that and the benefits of that. You're free to discuss there in the chat. But what is interesting is the potential for him to generate extraordinary revenue through the sale of Truth Social. Look at how CNN are covering that, ultimately admitting that their infatuation with Donald Trump is so extreme and extraordinary that Donald Trump has his own financial news section. It's like Trump is a whole planet to them and has his own taxonomies within the subject of Trump. Have a look.
Category, is there any good financial news for Trump?
Yeah, so very interesting. And Audie, in fact, was the one who pointed this out to me. Trump's Truth Social share worth. So back in 2022, it was about 700 million. Last year, it was less than 100 million. But there's this idea, essentially, that Truth Social will, in fact, be able to go public. And how much would Trump's shares be worth if it does, in fact, go public? It could be upwards of $4 billion. That's billion with a B, not million with an M.
Do you see sometimes how granular the news gets when dealing with its assumptions around your intelligence? That's billions. That's the big one. Look, this is a zero. This is how many zeros there are on this one. Not the M ones. No, not that one. Not the McDonald's one. The Burger King one.
Now, of course, keep in mind that Trump can't sell these stocks for another 6 months. But the fact is, we've had all this bad news for Trump. This could be good financial news for Donald Trump.
Harry, and great to see you.
They're all friends. That's some bad Trump financial news. Here's some more Trump propaganda. Now, we've already learned that Russiagate was an extraordinary piece of discredited propaganda, but it's still an idea that's being continually seeded and implemented. Some time ago, we commented on a famous Barack Obama speech at Stanford University where he talked about the necessity for censorship because disinformation, even if you don't believe it, muddies the water. I suppose suppose this is an argument that's advanced because many of us would say, indeed, this is one of our key points. And let me know in the YouTube chat, in the Rumble chat, in the Locals chat, what you think about this is we can decide for ourselves what we believe to be true. I've lost count of the number of times that we've reported on content here, then you tell us in the chat, that's not what we think, we disagree with you, that's a false flag, we believe this, and then we go back and forth a little bit. You know we've got differing views on a variety of political subjects, but a consensus can be achieved between us. And indeed, what they claim of misinformation, that it's a problem even if you don't believe it, meaning that if your objection was, hey, I'm a free citizen, I'm an adult, I'll decide for myself what I do with the information you give me, I don't need you to censor and control information. Precisely what they claim it's doing, muddying the water, creating distractions, even though it doesn't sort of really make total sense, is one of the tropes and tactics of the legacy media, i.e. Nancy Pelosi continually saying that Trump might be in the employ of Vladimir Putin prevents us from appreciating the despair and decay at the heart of our systems of democracy and the way that they are leading to cynicism, outrage, oppositionism, to continue to propagate the idea that Putin is meddling in Trump's affairs and perhaps has him in his financial thrall, perpetuates an idea that otherwise would have been long dismissed. And we've got a brilliant piece of propaganda coming up for you later around excess deaths, because now that excess deaths are accepted as an actual reality, the UK system for recording excess deaths has literally been amended. This is brilliant. Because the maths didn't work, they changed maths itself, or math in your accent. Let's have a look at Nancy Pelosi still banging on about Russiagate when most sensible people have come to the conclusion that the problem with democracy is actually Nancy Pelosi.
Putin is probably the richest person in the world.
Well, that's just... But is he? Do we know that? I mean, what, more than various Saudi Arabian monarchs and more than various hedge... I mean, I don't know. Can you just say that? Can you just go onto the news and look at a time when people are saying, we've got to be careful of misinformation, and just say, like, you know, like in Julian Assange's case, the other day, when people said, like, the CIA were planning to kill Julian Assange, Mike Pompeo has admitted that, it's widely understood. People went, hey, you can't just say that. You can't just say things. You can't just turn up on MSNBC in a delightful, rather Christmas-themed brooch and say that Vladimir Putin's the world's richest man. I've seen him with his top off, holding a rifle on horseback. He's got bum cancer, and he's the world's richest man. Not verify anything. Actually, you can if you're Nancy Pelosi.
Probably the richest person in the world.
How did he make his money? Did he know someone that knew a lot about Apple stocks and shares and then tell his spouse, hey, why don't you invest in Apple? I've got a feeling that Apple's going to go through the roof. Buy high, sell low. I can't remember.
Forget all these ratings that people have. The richest person in the world.
Forget the ratings. All these ratings. Just trust me. Why wouldn't you trust me? I've already told you I'm in politics to help children every half hour while getting extraordinarily rich on a 200 grand a year salary, amassing a fortune, while my husband Paul Pelosi, when he can keep the burglars out of the house and keep the booze out of his mouth, seems to be doing very well. Thank you very much.
He's also the most, well, not the most evil, stiff competition for that honor, but nonetheless.
Yeah, we all know who it is. It's Trump. Trump's evil. I've got a chart here of people that I reckon's evil right now. Evil, a very sort of complex idea that theologians and philosophers long debate. But is there such a thing as evil? Can you have evil? If God is all of reality and omnipotent, how can evil exist? Does that mean that God is sanctioning evil? No, I'll tell you what evil is. It's Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump. That's what it is. And anyone that would vote for them, and anybody that doesn't think MSNBC is great, and anybody that would want independent media to inform them and give them the right to decide things for themselves. That's evil.
Among the top 3 or 4 most evil people in the world.
It's got like a Champions League playoffs of evil. What is this? Like, it's an extraordinary new game of guess who's evil.
What does he have on Donald Trump that he have to constantly be catering to Putin?
Stop that. They're going back to the wee-wee stuff, aren't they? I feel like somebody's been wee-weed upon.
Telling Putin, go into these countries, NATO countries. NATO was there to stop Russia, to keep Russia out.
Well, why it it's harder to stop Russia if you keep going closer and closer to Russia. Oh, Russia's getting closer and closer to us. Well, what you've done there is you've moved closer to it. It's an issue of perspective, really.
They have been successful for nearly 75 years. We will celebrate that security success. And then we have, what's his name? I usually have him nameless, saying he does.
Voldemort. Is it Voldemort? Is the name of the song? Is that, this is children's television. It's children's television. I don't say his name. If you say Donald Trump's name 3 times in the mirror, you'll turn orange yourself. Your hands will shrink, and you'll be fined $350 million.
Support NATO and encouraging Russia to invade NATO countries.
He who shall not be named. I know Voldemort well, so there's another guy kind of like him. What do you think? We're all wondering this question, Speaker Pelosi. What do you think Putin has on him? I mean, it's
just inviting more speculation. That's meant to be the news. Why don't you make up some more stuff? Like, there's so many facts about what's gone on over there. Do you know that the 2014 coup involved the CIA? Do you know that there are biolabs in that country? What about the extraordinary relationship between Burisma, a Ukrainian company, and members of Hunter Biden's family? There are indeed many things that need to be discussed about both political organizations in your all-powerful country, the United States of America. And indeed, when you consider the case of Julian Assange and the fact that Trump is the one that finally pressed the button on that espionage charge and didn't pardon him, there are doubtless questions that have to be asked there. But you ain't going to get them questions asked on MSNBC because they want to corral you into a tiny paddock of ignorance through censorship.
sure seems like something, as you've said a few times, given that he refuses to criticize him, that he seems to be a fanboy of him.
Do you see how they all reacted when Jon Stewart criticised Joe Biden? Everyone just went to the toilet in their own trousers with dread that such a thing could happen. What we need, I suppose, is a degree of balance and utility and respect for one another's opinion, an ability to communicate openly, and none of these things are being granted to us. And those of you that saw Mike Benz's conversation with Tucker's been having some important conversations lately. A lot of people say the Putin conversation was important. Some people say, no, when he spoke to Russell Brand, that's one of the defining moments of our generation. But for my 2 cents, his conversation with Mike Benz is truly significant in outlining how the censorship industrial complex truly works. And it helps us to answer some questions that have been bothering me for a long time. For example, someone that's like my age, and I am my age by a sheer coincidence, maybe it's a conspiracy theory, the idea that the liberal left were interested in free speech was a kind of defining idea. How did that change? When did the neoliberalist left, I suppose we'll have to call them, stop caring about free speech? Well, this is something we can understand in some detail, as well as understanding the nature of the Russiagate hoax in a little more detail. Let's have a look at that together. This is an article from The Federalist, as you can see, and it's a line of inquiry we'll be exploring in more depth over the course of the week when we're looking at some of Mike Benz's revelations and how global censorship is a phenomena that's emerged in the internet age and is a tool that is being used to control us all. We're familiar with it because of the great work of Li Fang. We know how logically AI censored and controlled our work. We know how Moderna paid a lot of money to censor and control stuff we'd said, as well as others. I suppose I'm just focusing on myself because of, I am me. Hey, just check out this from The Federalist. You're going to love this. This is brilliant. This is going to help you to understand a lot of global ideas, or at least it helped me to understand them. I hope it helps you, Ruby C. Kinglet, over there on the Awakened Wonder chat. I hope it helps you, Jude DeBrain, over in the Rumble chat right now. And if you're watching us on YouTube, we'll be there for a few more minutes, but I want you to consider coming over. Check this. Among other things, free speech on the internet allowed US-backed groups to assert control over state-run media in foreign countries, making it much easier to overthrow governments. Oh, so they liked free speech when it caused disruption in places like Egypt, Tunisia, and Libya. The high watermark of this way of deploying free speech online, Benz explains, was the Arab Spring in 2011 and 2012. Now, I was really excited about that. I was like, oh my God, the internet's going to help people to organize and oppose the state. And out of that, of course, came the Occupy movement. And then things started to change. There was, of course, we were still living through the repercussions of the financial crash, but censorship changed radically around that time. The Obama administration considered these kind of regimes to be problematic in Egypt, Tunisia, and Libya. They all began falling in the so-called Facebook and Twitter revolution. So it was convenient for them to support free speech at that point. During that time, the State Department worked closely with these social media companies to keep them up and running in those countries to be used as tools for protesters and dissident groups that were trying to circumvent state censorship. Check out this, though. This is why this ongoing war is pivotal. This is why the continuing condemnation of Vladimir Putin and the ongoing support of Ukraine's, let's face it, unwinnable war against Russia are significant and interesting. And I say that with all respect for Ukrainian people and those directly affected in this conflict. All that changed in 2014 after the US-backed coup in Ukraine toppled the government of Viktor Yanukovych, and there was an unexpected pro-Russia counter-coup in Crimea and parts of eastern Ukraine. And that could have similar support from Russia. You would have to include that if you were a sensible and balanced an analysis of these kind of events. Later the same year, says Benz, when the people of Crimea voted to be annexed into the Russian Federation, that was the last straw for the concept of free speech on the internet in the eyes of NATO. I don't like free speech anymore. Free speech is very important. Okay, we, the people of Crimea, would like to use that free speech to declare a new affinity with our ethnic brothers in Russia. Do you know what free speech is? It's hate speech. We're going to have a lot less of that and start censoring it radically. Now, this is where it gets interesting with regard to what Nancy Pelosi has just said about Putin. That's, in some quarters, that would be regarded as an unfounded piece of conspiracy theory. Let's have a little look. Oh, is it up already? Government-backed censors who rigged the 2020 election. This is amazing because, look, I'm still on YouTube and talking about election rigging is a pretty controversial subject. So I'll tread very carefully here. And you know me by now, I don't have a desired outcome in your country, certainly for how elections go. It's your country. You do what you want to do with it. You've already kicked out Britain once. But check this. And then Trump was elected. From that moment, and indeed we know from the Russia collusion hoax, even before Trump was elected in 2016, the US foreign policy and defense establishments, which had done so much to censor and weaponize the internet overseas, turned their attention to American citizens. Initially, their predicate for domestic surveillance was Crossfire Hurricane, the fatuous notion that Russia had infiltrated the Trump campaign and that Trump was a Russian asset. Once that collapsed, they needed another excuse to spy on and censor Americans who held disfavored opinions or who spread misinformation, to put it in the parlance of the censorship industrial complex. To do that, they had to get around the prohibition against the CIA operating on American soil. And they have indeed done that. And that's what is significant about this time. And we're going to be looking at that in more detail over the coming week. We've got a really fantastic and amusing story about how the UK have literally meddled with the concept of arithmetic itself in order to, in my view, mask excess deaths. Excess deaths are high since 2019 for some reason. I don't know what's causing that. I'll tell you what's causing it. Math. If only these numbers didn't add up the same way, maybe we could turn the calculator the other way around. And look, it says boobless or shell this way. Isn't that more fun? Why do numbers have to be so restrictive? What is this, Sesame Street? Listen, you guys, if you're watching us on YouTube, we're going to be available for a few seconds now, so I'm going to need you to click the link and join us over on Rumble. But before you go, stress might be the very reason that you cannot lose weight. This is a word from our sponsors. I've not gone mad. If you have moderate to high stress, and Lord alone knows we do here, reporting on these issues on a daily basis, this doctor-formulated weight loss supplement called Lean could be your solution. Chronic stress wreaks havoc on blood sugar, which can cause your body to store excess fat. We all know that. Stress can also slow your metabolism, which fuels weight gain and stress eating and sugar cravings. Here's the good news. The studied ingredients in Lean have been shown to help maintain healthy blood sugar levels, help optimize metabolism, and keep your appetite under control. If your life is stressful, and whose life isn't stressful under this crazy regime, and you want to lose weight, add Lean to a healthy diet and exercise lifestyle. Don't use it in some crazy way. Be careful. Eat sensibly. You'll get 15% off of this if you go to takelean.com and enter brand 15. That promo code will let them know that we sent you, and it's good for our business. Brand 15 at takelean.com. There's a link in the description. Now, I've got to say this fast like you do on a commercial. Statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. Why would you trust those guys anyway? This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease, and is not a substitute or alternative for care from your healthcare provider. Whew! Okay, check this out though. If you want some genuine propaganda, this is beautiful. This is one of the most beautiful things I've seen in a long, long time. In the UK, they've realised, oh no, too many people have died in the last couple of years. What about if we calculated with a new improved method? Have a look at the first part of this, but I'm only going to show you the first part on YouTube because this has got to be for our loyal supporters, and I'm going to speak so freely on this one. You are going to love it. Just let's have a look at the first bit. Check this out. This is, instead of going, excess death is a problem, why don't we look into what's causing excess deaths? They've gone, excess death is a problem. Why don't we change maths so there isn't so many excess deaths?
During and since the coronavirus pandemic, we've generally seen more people die than we'd expect.
Yeah, we have, haven't we? Have you noticed that in the chat? More people are dying than we'd expect, and they didn't die of COVID. Was there anything else that could have been causing people to die? They know this is a big story, that's the one. Have we got someone in the office that we can use that hasn't got too much flamboyance or charisma that can make the idea that people are dying at unprecedented levels seem like quite a boring fact and something that's to do with maths being broken? Gene, we need you to do a video. Excess deaths is not interesting and you shouldn't watch it or look at it. And don't mean that in a mean way about Jane, who's a human being with a soul and who deserves love and respect.
We call these deaths above average excess deaths.
Yeah, a lot of excess deaths.
Different organisations have used different ways to calculate this.
What I did, for example, is looked at how many people die on average, then looked if the number this year is bigger, and then the deficit or surfeit would be the excess deaths.
Each with merit and particular uses.
But some of them made it look like too many people were dying. So we had to come up with a new system. Listen, we're going to stop doing this on YouTube. I'm enjoying this too much. Do the countdown if you can. Listen, you've got to come with us because we've got Pierre Corey coming on the show in a second. He is magnificent. He's one of those people that makes you believe that it's not science that's broken. It's not medicine that's broken. It's the systems that are behind it. It's that they have been co-opted. Also, consider becoming an awakened wonder because we make additional content every week. And this week I'm talking about Amy Winehouse and the new film about her and the exploitation of figures in media. See you in a few seconds. Click the link. Get over to Rumble. See you. Get over here, will ya?